Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, warshippers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today it is long past time we concluded our How to Play the American Destroyer line by taking a look at Tier 10's USS gearing. You probably heard me say in the last video that I felt like Fletcher was the best ship in the line, the pinnacle of the line, as it were, and that for years I have felt that gearing is a bit of a letdown. But that statement was made from a bit of a place of ignorance. Gearing has undergone a change in the last year or so. That is, I think, something that I was excited for. I remember when it happened, but I didn't really play the ship enough to, I think, appreciate it. And so we're going to talk about why my opinion of this ship has been reevaluated while in the process of working on this video. And I truly believe now that for many, many years, this was not a worthy successor to Fletcher, but I believe that now, finally, after all of these years, gearing actually is an upgrade to Fletcher and represents a worthy ship at the top of the line of the American destroyers, which I'm excited about because I love these ships. Okay? So, let's look around the ship. Now, up until now, you're used to seeing the American single-barreled turrets, and you can already tell some differences to gearing. We're going to get to that in her main battery, but there are some definite design changes on this ship. So let's start out with survivability, as we always do. You see they're fully buffed with Survivability Expert. I'm 22,900 HP. Gearing's base HP stock out of the barrel is 19,500, more or less. That puts her firmly in the bottom third of Tier 10 destroyers. So I've said this for several videos now, right? We talked about it with Benson, we talked about it with Fletcher, and now we're going to talk about it again with Gearing. Gearing is a capable gunboat, but she does not have the health of a bully. So, she is best played as a gunboat against targets of opportunity. In other words, other opposing destroyers who are low on health or out of position, or if you have friends around who can help you win that gunfight faster. But you do not want to be taking 1v1 duels against an Elbing or a Haberovsk or a Delny or something like this. You will lose. You will get melted, and you'll wonder what happened. Don't do that to yourself. Save yourself the pain, and when you see those ships, learn how to play around them. Learn when to push them, in what situations you can and get away with it. There will be some trial and error here. You will die some while you figure this out. But the reality is that in most situations, you want to avoid those engagements because of your health pool. So you have enough health to be effective, but not enough health to be a bully. You should be used to that by now. Armor layout. LOL, you have no armor. Wait, actually, hold on a minute. Gearing has a bit of a quirk. If you remember, every other destroyer in the line up to this point had either 16 or 19 millimeters of armor throughout the entire hull of the ship, which meant that for the calibers of guns you were facing, you were going to get penetrated basically always. Gearing has an oddity, and I'll show it to you right here. This midship side plate armor section is 21 millimeters thick. Now, again, for the overwhelming majority of engagements you're going to find yourself in, this does not matter. But there is the occasional engagement where this will come into play, primarily against European destroyers firing high explosive shells at you. Other than the new European alternate branch that's been announced and is still in testing, right? The main branch, I'm looking at Holland, I'm looking at Småland, I'm looking at Östergötland, I'm looking at Öland down at Tier 8. Those are the ones that you might see in Gearing's matchmaking bracket. Or even Dalarna, the big super ship, right? If they are firing HE shells, 120 millimeter HE shells on 1/6 pen will only pen 20 millimeters of armor. So if they're firing HE at you, and it hits this midship section, those shells will shatter. That gives you, I won't say it's a leg up, because any one of those destroyers is going to be a challenging gunfight for you, but it is something to keep in mind, okay? A smart European destroyer captain, when he engages a gearing, will simply swap to the AP and take whatever full pins he can get and not worry about the module end caps and everything, okay? Just to make sure that he's penning this side plate and he's not shattering any of his shells. But just keep in mind that in odd corner engagements, destroyers with low caliber guns, and I'm talking like 4 inches here, will shatter their HE shells against this 21 millimeter plate. So is it something to get excited about? No. Is it something you need to be aware of because it might come into play 2 games out of every 50? Yeah, it's something you should know. Let's talk about maneuverability and concealment before we get onto the weapons, okay? Maneuverability, you see there 38 knots. That, of course, is with a speed flat. Gearing's base speed is 36 knots. Again, not best in tier, not worst in tier, firmly in the middle. You have enough speed to do what you need to be doing, right? This is only about, I think this is about a half knot slower than Fletcher. And Gearing was a bigger boy, right? You can see, I mean, just the fact that I've got double-barreled turrets. This ship has more beam, right? So she is a little slower, just a hair. 640 on the turning circle, 3.3 on the rudder shift. You will notice a handling change between Fletcher and Gearing. Gearing doesn't handle as well. It's literally that simple. She does not handle as well. Does she handle badly? That's debatable. And this is something that I want to talk about. I guess we can go ahead and talk about it now, right? For a long time, one of the reasons that I did not enjoy this ship was because of the handling. You get used to how Benson and Fletcher handle. They're very similar. And then you get to Gearing and you're like, ugh, this thing handles like a pig. Sometime in the last year, though, and I didn't bother to look up the exact patch notes, I apologize, but the American Destroyer line has had all of their models updated, and that includes Gearing. One of the things that's changed about Gearing, and I guess we can also kind of highlight this by talking about her survivability, she has a lot less freeboard than she used to. In other words, more of this hull, all of the hull above the waterline, more of the hull used to stick up above the waterline. She made a huge target when broadside. Like, it was almost impossible to miss this ship. And when you put her alongside something like Yu Yang, which is not, I don't believe a Gearing clone, but I think she's an Alan Sumner Sumner class destroyer, which is like a close cousin. Yu Yang would sit much lower in the water, and we all went, what is the deal with this? So they lowered Gearing's freeboard. More of her hull is below the waterline. And even though her maneuverability numbers have not changed, when you play the ship, to me, the handling feels better. Now, maybe that's because more and more Tier 10 destroyers have gone almost to the spa cruiser, little tiny light cruiser route, and they're so much bigger and they handle like garbage. Gearing feels better by comparison. I admit that's possible. So I personally believe that the hull changes that they made to the model make the handling feel better. She does not handle as well as Fletcher. You will notice a difference, but I don't believe the handling is as bad as it used to be. At least it doesn't feel that way the games I've played lately. Now, you're going to see here my detection on the surface is 5.6 kilometers. That is a bit of a misnomer. Her base full-out concealment build is 5.9, and that's perfectly serviceable, but it's not best in tier. This 5.6 you're seeing is because, and we'll show you this when we get to the upgrade modules, I am running the unique upgrade for USS Gearing in slot number 5, which gives her a bonus, a 15% reduction in her surface detection rather than only a 10% reduction. This is a huge, that module, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, that module, that upgrade is a huge, huge boon to this ship. I cannot overstate this enough, guys. I'll hit this again in a minute, but if you want to play a Gearing a lot, if you really enjoy this line, I highly encourage you, save up your bureau points, buy the unique upgrade for Gearing. At no point will you ever regret it. It makes this ship play so much better. So much better. Is she playable with the base detection of 5.9? Absolutely. But she is not the stealthiest thing in the tier, right? She's still outspotted by Vampire Deuce. She has very, very similar detection to Holland, which is a gunboat you kind of don't want to run into, if I'm honest. She has identical detection to Trump. She's outspotted by Yu Yang. She's outspotted by Shimakaze. So there are ships out there that are extreme threats to you that have 200 to 300 meter advantage spotting on you, and that can hurt, right? You will notice that when it happens. You're like, damn, I ended up in a gunfight I didn't want to end up in because I was outspotted. But with this module, you will have the ability to dictate more gunfights, and you will be able to avoid more gunfights when you wish to avoid them than you can without it, and that changes how this ship plays so radically. I cannot overstate it. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But yeah, so this is basically with the unique upgrade module, she is essentially tied for best in tier detection. And on this platform, this jack of all trades hull with her torps, her AA, her guns, that is an amazing, amazing ability. This is a unique upgrade gearing is such a great ship. Artillery. So up until this point, we have been playing with the American 5-inch 38 and a single barrel turret. Guess what? These are still the American 5-inch 38 guns you're used to, except now we smashed 2 of them into a turret. These are the same secondary turrets you find on just about every American battleship starting down at Tier 8. Double-barreled with a very quick reload here. You see there are 3.3 seconds. You've got 2 up forward in a super firing configuration and 1 back here on the stern. So all in, compared to her predecessors, Fletcher and Benson, she has 1 more main battery barrel on the same reload. So she's just a little more gunpowder. And if you like, you can show someone this narrow profile and still get 65, 2/3 of your firepower firing at the enemy over the bow on a much narrower profile than you can if on Fletcher or somebody else, where you have to kind of show them, about a 30-degree angle. There's a lot more ship to shoot at when you want to get 3 or 4 guns online. With gearing, all you have to show them is this right here. Bam. And you are in good shape. So the turret layout is a massive change, a good change, but one you'll have to adapt to. The main battery itself, the same guns you've been firing. The same guns, the same shells, the same ballistics. You should have a pretty good idea how these shells work by now. You have a pretty quick reload, as you're used to. The range is actually a little less than Fletcher, but let's be honest, you're not going to spend a lot of time firing these guns at long range. It's not a good idea. I mean, 11.1 kilometers, as you've seen in some of the how to play videos up to this point, they're perfectly good for harassing battleships, slow battleships at long range. You do not want to be taking gunfights against something light and small at that range. The odds of you hitting them are very, very tiny. The AP, again, as we've been mentioning up the line, there's absolutely value in the AP. You'll see a little bit of that in the replay that I use later. So don't forget you have it. There are times that is the right call. So main battery is excellent. A lot of guns, a lot of good firepower. You will like, if you like the American guns, hey, you got more of them, you'll enjoy it. Torpedoes. Now, this is something that gearing really excels at, and that's didn't used to be the case, or at least it never felt that way to me. Gearing has 2 possible torpedo configurations. You can be using the 10.5 kilometer torpedoes that you use down at Fletcher. If you like those, you can continue to mount those here on USS Gearing. Or Gearing offers you the option of 16.5 kilometer torpedoes. Now, these torpedoes do not hit quite as hard, but they travel a lot farther, and they are basically just as stealthy as the Tier 9 counterparts, meaning that they get the American torpedoes, especially up at the high tiers. What they do is they're low detection radius, at least compared to some of the Japanese counterparts that hit this hard, and so you're much more likely to land them because you're providing less reaction time to the opponent. Now, the numbers you're seeing here on the screen are a little boosted. Obviously, that reload, 93 seconds, is well boosted. The base reload on this is about 116, 115 seconds or so close to 2 minutes. So we're almost back to Benson level bad. But again, like we talked about with Fletcher, you can buff that with both the commander skill and an upgrade in slot 6 if you want, which is what I've done here. That's why you see these numbers. And then, of course, I've also buffed the speed. The base speed of these torpedoes, I believe, is 67 knots. Let me double check that real fast. Gearing says 66 knots apparently. And then so I've taken a module and a captain skill to buff it all the way up to 73, 74 knots, whatever it is. That's just like we did a little bit of that down at Fletcher as well. And that is, in my opinion, that's a nice change because that really improves the hitting power of these torpedoes. The opposing detection time, right? Ordinarily, that your opponent will have a little over 8 seconds to react to the torpedoes at their base 66 knot speed. You buff it here out to the 73 knot speed. They have a little under 7.5 seconds. So nearly a full second reduction in reaction time to your opponent if you buff the torpedo speed. So these torpedoes are really good. Torpedo arcs. The rear launcher has not great arcs forward, but amazing arcs over the stern. This is actually a buff the ship received, again, sometime in the last year, I think with the model update. So this stern launcher, you can see, like, there's really nothing back here to obstruct it. So it basically can fire all the way, it'll turn almost all the way up until these tubes will bang up against the side of the Z turret all the way back here. So you can fire torpedoes like off your stern at probably like 155, almost 160 degrees. So if you're running away from something, this stern launcher is outstanding. The middle launcher is a little more challenging to use because, as you can see, I'm not going to be firing these torpedoes, at this angle. I've got all this superstructure in the way. The angle kind of starts here, say maybe about 50 to 55, maybe even 60 degrees off the forward, and then stops somewhere back here, maybe 135 or so. It's not quite as favorable to the stern. So this forward launcher is a little more difficult to use. You do have to show a lot of the ship to get that one in the water, but this stern launcher is amazing if you are running away from something. If you're kiting somebody and you want to be dumping torpedoes back into their face as they push you, the stern launcher has great angles for that. You will enjoy it. I recommend a torpedo build on this ship, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but it's certainly not the only valid build on the ship. Depth charges, I mean, we've been talking about this before. If you find yourself hunting submarines, and I have done a little bit of this in gearing lately, these depth charges are absolutely up to the task. These are the hardest hitting bombs in the game in terms of depth charges. You're putting out 14 at a stick. You have 2 sticks available on a 40-second reload. Basically, by the time you get done dumping out 14 bombs from your first stick, you have a very, very short time before that next one is reloaded and ready to go if you're just chaining them together. So the American destroyers remain very, very strong submarine hunters if you're able to use the ship in that light without getting your ship shot off, right? You don't often find that, because if a destroyer is hunting a submarine, he's probably a little exposed, depending on the phase of the game. But once you have one cornered, you'll kill him. You'll absolutely kill him. These bombs will just murder him. He's a dead man. Anti-aircraft defenses. This is one area where gearing perhaps takes a step backwards that I'm not a huge fan of. And we'll kind of highlight some things. For starters, you're looking at 3 flak puffs in a salvo rather than 4. We had 4 on gearing. Now I only have 3. This has never made sense to me, right? I went from a 5-barreled ship. I had 5 dual-purpose main battery barrels on Fletcher. I got 4 flak puffs. And now, here at gearing, I get 3 flak puffs. But I have more barrels. Yes, but you only get 3 flak puffs. Well, why? That makes no sense. There are now Tier 10 destroyers in the game, like Holland, that put up an obscene amount of flak. This many barrels, like these are the primary dual-purpose secondary barrels found on every American battleship in the game. Why is gearing still only putting up 3 flak puffs? That doesn't make any sense to me, but there you are. The continuous damage is comparable to Fletcher. She has a little less long-range damage. Again, that makes no sense to me, but that's how the ship is designed. She has a little more mid-range punch because she mounts more of the Bofors. She has 2 quad-mounted Bofors amidships here. I don't believe any of the Fletcher-class ships mount the quad. Maybe Kidd does, but most of them mount doubles. So she has 2 of these quads, and up forward in the superstructure, she has 2 doubles. So all in, she has 12 40mm Bofors barrels. That means her mid-range aura is actually pretty solid. And she has a lot of 20mm Oerlikons, quite a few of these floating around. And so Gearing's inner range aura, her short range aura, is actually better than that of Fletcher. It's unfortunate that you really want the long and the mid range is where you want your punch to be. So the AA upgrades that Gearing gets are almost all in the inner ring, which isn't really where you want them. We'll talk more about this in a minute, of course, when we talk at consumables, but she does get access to the fancy American Destroyer Defensive Fire, which doubles all of these numbers rather than increases them by 50%. So when you push, if you take DFAA, you go to murder planes, you will murder planes. Like the opposing carrier will know he's been in a fight. But the A is a bit of a step backwards from Fletcher, in my opinion. Not a huge one, but maybe a quarter step or a half a step back. Let's have a quick look at modules and upgrades. Now, this could be a very, very long conversation, okay? One of the nice things about gearing is it suffers from, quote unquote, the same problems that Fletcher has, which is the ship is a jack of all trades, meaning you can build it in a lot of different ways, and all of them are playable. Maybe they're not as good as you wish them to be in certain areas, but they're very good ships. Like, they're very playable. Here's my recommended build, okay? Main armaments 1 because you're going to get shot at enough. You want your guns and your torpedo tubes working as often as possible. As we've been seeing, I continue to take defensive AA fire mod here in slot 2. If you don't like this, or if you don't intend to equip defensive AA fire, obviously engine boost is available to you. If you don't want to invest the coal in either one of these, engineering protection is 100% the way to go. Okay. Slot 3, I have taken torpedo tubes modification, and that's because you'll see down here in slot 6, I have taken torpedo tubes modification again. So to me, if you want to play a torpedo deflector, a torpedo gearing, this is what you put in slot 3 and slot 6 right here. Period. This makes your torpedo tubes traverse a little faster and reduces the chance they're going to get knocked out. Okay. If you don't want to play a torpedo build Fletcher, aiming systems is probably the way to go here. I do not recommend AA Guns mod. I think that this is leaning into the AA build a little too much. I've said that before, and I continue to believe that. And you do not need main battery modification on this ship. Like this upgrade is a waste on this ship. Don't do this. So your really two choices are aiming mod or torpedo tubes mod. Even if you don't go for a torpedo tube build, I still think that torpedo tubes mod 1 is the best option in this space. But aiming is available if you'd rather go that way. Slot 4, of course, traditionally, propulsion is what I recommend. Steering is available if you want it. I don't think this is necessary. Your rudder shift is 3.3 seconds. You're not going to significantly improve upon that. 20 seconds, it's going to be down under 3. It's going to be super fast. Like, you still aren't going to notice. Like, you're not going to notice a difference. So, to me, propulsion mod protects your engine. Well, this is not protect your engine. This is reach full engine power when you're accelerating. So this helps you get off the mark a little quicker from the start of a game, or if you find yourself sitting in smoke or parked behind an island or just moving slow for any reason, this will help you get off the mark a little quicker. So I like this mod. Depth charges mod 1, again, in my opinion, is not worth it. It's overkill. You have plenty of depth charges in your stick to when you know where to look for sub, you will murder him. Like, it's just, once you know where to look, he's dead. Okay? So don't do this. Slot 5, there's really only two, in my opinion, two viable options here. One is Concealment System Mod 1. This is, of course, what I would recommend for a brand new gearing player. Pick this up. This is what you want to plug in here. However, once maybe you've played the ship or you've got the research points laying around, you want to invest in the unique upgrade. Now, we talked about why earlier. The concealment advantage is a huge, huge boon. What are the disadvantages? You see them there. Your main battery reloads a little slower, and your torpedo tubes reload a little slower. Now, the torpedo tube reload time, 5 seconds, 5% is not catastrophic. The main battery reload time, 15%, sounds worse than it really is. If you'll remember, with this module installed, my main battery reload is 3.3 seconds. Well, that's right about average for these kinds of guns, so that's not so terrible. When you play this module, essentially what you're doing is you're turning gearing into more of a torpedo boat and less of a gunboat. A little less of a gunboat. She is still more than capable of defending herself when she's cornered or when she's forced into a gunfight. But her torpedoes are going to be her primary focus in this kind of a build. And then, of course, lastly but not least, I would recommend Torpedo Tubes Mod 2 here because, again, I like leaning into the torpedo builds. I think Gearing's torpedoes are excellent. The 16.5 kilometers are amazing. The 10.5s are more than playable if you want to use them, but I think the 16.5s are the way to go. I would not take gun range. I think this is a waste on this ship. If you want to lean into a gun build, Main Battery Mod 3 is your answer. And if you really want to play like a picket destroyer, this is a viable way to play Gearing. Auxiliary Armaments Mod 2. We talked a little bit about this on Fletcher as well. If you want to play a aerial defense, picket destroyer, shooting down planes, scouting for your team, harassing with torpedoes, this module is an absolutely valid upgrade for this ship as long as you've taken defensive fire in slot in your consumable slot. Don't take this and then not take defensive fire. That'll feel terrible. Consumables are the same we've been looking at. Of course, you've got your damage control, your fancy, awesome American smoke, which is now the best it's ever going to be. 130 seconds, over 2 minutes of smoke before it dissipates. And then you have your defensive AA fire there. You see the fancy 100% continuous damage. Your only other option here is engine boost, right? So you get to pick one. I recommend defensive fire. I will always recommend defensive fire because if there's not a carrier in the game, hey, you've already won the matchmaker lottery, right? If there is a carrier in the game, congratulations, you are equipped to deal with him appropriately. We can talk flags real briefly since we're right here on the screen. Again, if I'm going to invest in playing a high-tier ship, I like to I like to not detonate, so I like Juliet Charlie. The Victor Lima, India X-Ray, and Juliet Whiskey Unaone flags, to me, are kind of stock standard for most American destroyers. This is maximizing your flood and fire chances on all your armaments. Again, with the American destroyers, I will run November Echo Setteseven, and I will also run Sierra Bravo because I'm building them out a little bit as AA pickets, in the sense of when there's planes around, I'm totally unafraid to push the button, light them up, and murder planes. Last two, of course, Sierra Mike for a little bit extra speed boost, never a bad thing, and November Foxtrot makes all your consumables recharge just that much faster, and that's the way to go. If you want to play this ship in a div, right, and you're using the smoke specifically, X-Ray Papa Unaone is also a good option to consider. So if you're playing with friends and you're going to be laying big smoke screens for them to drive their light cruisers into or whatever, this is a flag you absolutely want to consider. Captain skills. Again, this is basically the identical build that you saw me run on Fletcher. I like playing the ship this way, so most of the same comments apply. To me, the base four are always going to be Preventive Maintenance, Last Stand, Survivability Expert, and Concealment Expert. From there, I lean into the Torpedoes. That's Fill the Tubes and Swift Fish. Then probably Adrenaline Rush, and last, this is probably the last skill I would take, Main Battery AA Specialist. A little bit better reload time. This helps counteract some of that 15% penalty off of the unique upgrade, and then you get a little more continuous AA as well. So this is the exact same build I ran on Fletcher. What other skills could you consider? Well, if you want to lean even harder in the Torpedoes, Liquidator, an absolutely perfect, an excellent skill. You want to be looking at gunboats, I think you should be looking at Demolition Expert. There's even a valid case to be made for extra heavy AP, simply because there will be opportunities firing. Let's say you're farming a battleship and he's broadside to you. Fire the AP. You're going to get, I mean, you'll get full pins against most battleship superstructure with that AP. Those will add up, right? That makes a difference. I do not recommend IFHE. I mean, it is a viable skill, but you really shouldn't be using your guns to focus anything other than destroyers and then harass everything else, in my opinion. Trying to build gearing as like a dedicated like cruiser or battleship hunter with the guns, good luck. Good luck with that. Superintendent, a valid pick, not one I would go for, but a decent option. If you're leading into gunboats, Fearless Brawler is absolutely a great pick. I've run this on Fletcher before. I think this is an excellent skill for gearing. Radio location, a lot of people swear by this skill. If you want to play more torpedo, want to lean to that torpedo boat, radio location is an excellent skill. I do not recommend Dazzle. I don't see a lot of value in this one. Nobody's ever really sure how much this skill does or doesn't contribute. And for 4 points, that's not good enough for me. Priority Target, a great place for 2 points if you want it. I could also see picking up for 1 point Consumable Specialist. Your DFA comes back just that much quicker. So there's only a handful of skills in this tree that I would really avoid. But if you want to lean into a heavy torpedo build, this is how I would play gearing. So with all of that theory crafting done, let's go showcase the ship in action, and we'll see you guys back here in just a minute. All right, welcome everybody to this game on Northern Waters here in gearing. If you've been paying attention to the channel recently, you've seen me post a couple of recent examples of gearing gameplay where I've kind of been highlighting the spotting damage potential and possible credit earnings and so on of this ship. But this game is going to highlight something very different. We're going to be looking at the just raw damage and kill potential of this ship, and, well, I think you'll be surprised. Starting here in the extreme northwestern corner of Northern Waters, I was really surprised to spawn where I spawned, behind this goofball island all the way, like almost, I mean, I'm on the one line. It feels like some of the map spawn points are getting really weird lately. I'm not sure what's going on there. But 4 of us on this flank. You see their team's nice and evenly split. 4 left, 4 center, and 4 right. I got a Nebraska and a Shimanto backing me up, a Salmon off to my left. But I'm the only destroyer here. Proper destroyer. The submarine is not a destroyer. Now, my initial thought is I want to play all the way down the one line on the south side of this little island that's directly off my starboard bow. But that's a very, very aggressive play to be making this early, right? This island, and you see it all the time in competitive play, and it's no different in random, is a very, very powerful position, very strong position to help dominate and control the ACAP. I kind of want to own it, but I'm a little cautious, right? I don't want to lose my ship because there is at least 1, maybe 2 gunboats on the opposing team that I actually fear. That's the Fenyang and the Marceau if I run into them at the wrong time. I'm going to start off by vomiting some torpedoes across the bottom into the capture circle in the assumption, or maybe possibly just vain hope, that I catch a destroyer down there trying to cap, and I can torpedo him, and he will regret his life choices. I am going to push some eyes around this island. This is probably a little risky. I don't know that I would make this play ordinarily, but I'm starting to get the sense that there's not much over here. If it is, it's moving up pretty slowly. So I'm going to make this play to have a peek, and yep, there is the opposing Marceau. I want no part of this guy. He's got way more gunpowder than I do. I just want to get some eyes for the team. We're going to go ahead and turn around and kind of pull back north. Now, the torpedo salvo I vomited out also had a second possibility right there. You see there's some battleships moving down there, the Missouri, the Preußen. I thought with 16.5 kilometer range, maybe I'd catch a torpedo into one of them. As it is, I don't catch them. I catch this Mines in a turn. He takes a pair with a couple of floods, and I don't realize it at first, but his DCP is offline. That dude is still flooding. And on 2 floods, well, he's not going to be with us very long. In fact, it doesn't even register me. When I was playing this game the first time, I turned around, I went back, chugging along here. Oh, I'm going to reposition. Let's go try and pick up this cap circle. And I get to right about here, and I'm like, wait, what? I got a kill? I literally had no idea. I wasn't even paying attention to realize that guy was still flooding. Torpedoes are back in the tubes, but I kind of want to wait and see. Ah, crap. All right, I'm going to pause this for a minute. This is a skill that you really got to learn when you play Destroyer. And that is, when you find yourself in this situation, how do you react? You have to understand the handling of your ship and the speed that you're moving, and how do all these things come together? How do I survive this instant right here on the screen? Because this is every destroyer captain's nightmare. Ordinarily, my reaction in many cases would be to cut my throttle and look for a gap, right? Because if I cut my throttle, the ship will come around, will come to starboard quicker. I'll get narrow faster. But as I'm looking at this salvo, I'm realizing at full speed, the gap that I need is right there all the way on the extreme left. If I could draw it on the screen for you, I would. You see right there on the screen where it says 0.47 seconds? That little gap right there, that's where I've got to drive my ship. And in order to make that work, I can't slow down. So we keep the brakes on, cross our fingers, put the rudder over, and there we go. Those kinds of high-risk maneuvers are the sorts of things that you really, honestly cannot teach. It sounds awful to say, but it's the sort of stuff that you really develop the more experience that you get in a hull. The more time you spend behind the helm of a ship, you'll learn to recognize those instances, and they'll just become second nature. You'll be like, oh yeah, I can make that. Oh, here's my gap. Oh, cut my throttle and turn in. And it's just, you don't even think about it after a while. I decide with the Marceau deciding to play behind the island, it's time for me to go make a play for the cap. My Salmon has abandoned us. He's gone all the way out to mid, where he's going to get bombed into oblivion, apparently, or something. I don't know. Whenever I see a submarine on my team anymore, guys, I just accept that I'm playing a ship down, right? Submarines, they have so little battle influence other than just irritation. They die so easily, and so few players use them the way that they should, in my opinion, which is they're fabulous for spotting and capping. That guy sailed submerged through the A-cap, accomplished nothing, went out to the middle of the board, and died. Yay. Now, I'm intentionally sitting here knowing the Missouri and his radar are pushing me. I'm hoping that I can get this cap off before the Marceau opens up, and as it turns out, I miss by just about a half second. I allow myself to kind of get spooked here, and, well, yeah. I am going to take some damage for my mini transgressions here of getting spotted by the Missouri radar. It is what it is. I'm not afraid to shed a little bit of health here, but it does feel bad that I don't get anything in return for it. I'd put some torpedoes downrange on the Missouri thinking, surely he'll blunder into one of these, but nah, I didn't lead him quite right. And so I give up a bunch of health for no gain there. I don't get the cap. Feels bad. The team playing behind me, though, well, it's 3-on-2 on this flank, right? Like, I've got me and the Conqueror and the Nebraska versus the Marceau and the Missouri. The Missouri's turning around. The Marceau has actually backed off a bit. And I'm kind of like, well, I grossly outspot this Marceau. I can see him coming. I have no issues trying to cap against this guy. So I need to get up here and finish this off, right? But I'm telling my team, guys, when you can see the Marceau, if you're not shooting at him, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. I need you to shoot the Marceau, because I can't kill that guy, right? I mean, I'm being a little unfair. In the right situation, if he's low and so on and so forth, yeah, sure, maybe. But, I mean, 9 times in 10, I mean, I'm certainly not going to go take a straight-up gunfight against him. I'll get my face melted off, right? Gearing is good at maybe cleaning him up if he's low, but I'm not going to win just a straight-up gunfight against that guy. Missouri's decided to move into kite formation. I'm out here trying to cap. Finally not going to have to worry about the Missouri radar. The only thing I really have to worry about right now is possibly the Marceau coming around the island and getting in my face. But if you look at his last reported position, he's not really in a good position to do that. And the Nebraska bombers are out. We're finally about to get a few spots on these guys. This guy, and I can see where he's at. Yeah, he's pointed the wrong way. So I'm finally able to pick up this cap. That's good. The Nebraska overflies him for some reason, rather than just turning around to bomb him. Looks like he's trying to figure out how to do it. Like yeah, he like flew over the Marceau, didn't even realize it, apparently. He's lining up on the Missouri before he turns. He loses 2 planes before he turns all the way around and comes back to try and bomb the Marceau. Now, the plane spotting does give me an opportunity here. We're going to smoke up and try and get some chip damage on this guy. Unfortunately, I'm just not going to get much out of it. Maybe a couple or 3 salvos here. Maybe about 5-6K out of the guns. Just enough to be an irritating nuisance, but nothing significant, right? Just try and take advantage of the little bombers. The little spotting that we got out of the bombers, I should say. We do pick up the cap. Team's doing a decent job of board control, but we are still down a ship. We were down 2 ships at one point, but we're now only down 1. That's possibly a bit of a waste of a smoke, but I felt like if I had the opportunity to do meaningful damage to the Marceau, I needed to take it. There's really nothing else over here threatening me right now. I mean, you never know how game's going to play out, but you always have to make those kinds of decisions in the moment of what can taking tactical action X achieve me right now? And my thought process there was, I might be able to significantly hurt this Marceau. I need to take the opportunity. Now, I'm not excited about watching my Conqueror push this guy, but his HE does do a decent job of beating up the Marceau. I'm actually surprised to say this, but Conqueror is not going to die. Marceau's actually going to get some torpedoes into him, right? But he's not going to die. He's going to survive this push against the Marceau, which I would never have expected. And so he pops his fancy heel, and off he goes. Now, I'm going to pause the game here real briefly, and let's take a look around the map. We've basically, at this point, picked up the ACAP. There's no value in me staying here anymore. So you're going to see me turn towards mid. I'm going to vomit some torpedoes out towards the Missouri because he basically has to move north. He has to accept a mid-range or possibly even a close-range engagement with that Conqueror, given his board position and the way his bow is pointed. But if you look at the rest of the map, it doesn't look so rosy, right? We're tied on ships, we're up on points, that feels okay, but we're getting very heavily pushed in other portions of the map. So we're going to move towards mid after this and see how we can impact the battle from there. I'm vomiting those torpedoes out towards the Missouri on the assumption he's going to turn bow into the Conqueror and probably go stationary. Or at least pull his throttle up, slow down, prolong the closure rate of the Conqueror as long as he possibly can in the interests of just trying to preserve his health and win that gunfight. Now, in theory, the Conqueror should be able to outlast him. So the Missouri may do something that I'm not expecting, which is continuing to press. And that is, now that I look back, that's exactly what he's doing. Seems like the Missouri has chosen to go for a drive-by. I am going to catch him with at least 2 of these, so I'm trying to contribute to this Conqueror's survival. So that helps. But at this point, as I pass through the twins here along the 3 line, I can no longer impact the battle behind me. I have to turn my attention to the middle of the map, where my friendly Holland here is doing the Lord's work, picking up the kill on the Fen Yang. So that's nice. It looks like we have a pretty solid control here of B as well. You can see the last reported position of the Salmon, but we don't know where that guy is at the moment, and I'm not going to go looking for him. I'm not going to go actively looking for him with this many opposing ships still in my way. If he pings somewhere and he pops up and I can get him, sure. Conqueror loses his drive-by battle. The Nebraska on the one line had a beautiful opportunity there to possibly put that Missouri out and doesn't manage it. Because the Missouri had to turn all the way around. That Missouri-Nebraska fight on the one line, look at the timer. We're just over the halfway mark of the game. It's still going to be going on. It's going to go on the rest of the game, those two guys. You'll see some salt about it in chat. It was a thing. It was a thing. Now, this Holland and I are going to do the Lord's work. I'm going to pause here again for just a moment to kind of talk through my thought process. If you look at the 7 line, that Conqueror is very close, and he's coming. My thinking is he's probably going to try to get into this cap circle. So I want to torpedo him. I want to prevent this play. At a minimum, at the worst thing he's going to do is probably keep pushing directly up the 6 line. Right now, you can see by the torpedo marker, he hasn't turned enough to where my torpedoes are going to get into, have a good shot at him. I'm going to slow down, make the turn, and he's going to get the front rack. I'm holding the second rack on the thought process of the black's going to spot him. I'm going to get eyes on him. Then I'll know. Then I'll know where to lead these because they've only got 6 kilometers of travel when they move like 70 knots. In the end, we don't get spots on him. I just dump these out here and in 2 waves. Now, the Holland on my port side here is doing exactly what you don't want to do in this situation, especially against a bloody Conqueror. What is it, class? Everybody tell me. He's going to sail in front of a Conqueror. You don't know where his guns are looking. You don't know what he's got in the barrel. You're going to take that risk against a British battleship? Well, watch what happens and you'll see why I didn't do it. Let's just put it that way. Conqueror has adjusted his course just a hair. I am going to land 3 out of that first salvo. That's a nice hit. But, of course, my Holland buddy is spotted on the surface, basically broadside. He eats every single one of those big old British HE shells, and it's a dev strike for the Conqueror. Of course, I didn't get a dev strike there because I staggered my launches, but I don't care. He's out. 8 minutes to play. We're still down a ship. We've got a nice, comfortable points lead, but this could still turn south on us because, well, look at our board positions. We are not exactly concentrated. The Holland and I were the most concentrated ships on the board, and, well, he didn't make it. The black is very low, having to retreat back up along the D line. The Ignacio Allende was up there with our surviving Kearsarge, but the Kearsarge is out, and the Allende is basically running for his life. So now, my thought process is, A, I can't go to sea, right? There's a Petropavlovsk over there. There's no way I can drive knowingly into the teeth of a radar cruiser when I don't know his heel status. But I might be able to sneak around and pick up this salmon somewhere. My suspicion is he's lurking somewhere to the south or between me and the sea. Oh, look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, we spotted the cockroach on the surface. We're going to get some salvos into him before he dies. But we're going to get to make excellent, excellent use of our American depth charge nuclear weapons. 5,000 damage a pop out of these bombs, and oh man, this guy is screwed. And I'm here for all of it. I'm here for all of it. Gearing puts down, I think it's 12 in a stick. Whatever it is, you have on demand a whole bunch of depth charges when you're ready to drop them. And yeah, this guy's that was not a contest. All right, pausing briefly again. We're still down a ship because unfortunately the Allende wasn't able to make it. That was kind of a given. The Petro is turning to mid. This is the right play for him. And as I turn, I'm like, okay, my torpedoes are ready. Let's see if maybe I can catch him with one. I'm going to vomit them through the gap. I know he has to come through this gap. Let's see if maybe I can catch him with his hydro now and catch him napping, get him to stumble into one. It's not going to be easy, right? Petro is has a very narrow profile. And those torpedoes are going to have traveled far enough by the time that they get over there that he'll have plenty of space to sail through it, unless if he sees him coming. So I got to hope maybe his hydro is down. Black seems to have the south side covered. I'm going to retreat to the north. You see there the Nebraska and the Missouri still doing whatever it is they do. Petro sees my torpedoes, turns, overcorrects, and swings his port side stern quarter there into the torpedo. And that's kill number 4. Feeling good. Back even on ships. 2-2 in the destroyer department. The Missouri is well out of it. I'm not even thinking about that guy right now. My thought process here is, okay, we're 6 minutes to play. We have a health advantage, but we can't count on that because most of that health is in our Nebraska, and he's not exactly being super contributing down there on the in G3 or whatever he's at. So it's up to me in this black. You can see there the opposing destroyer health is a little on the low side. There may be about 25% a pop. Now, I feel very comfortable that I could take the opposing gear in a gunfight. The Tashkent, I'm not so certain. He was spotted last, you see there, in about G9. I'm expecting him to kind of come this direction along the G line, C9. Expecting him to come this direction along the C line, coming into the cap from the north, and there he is. Now, because he's Russian, I have a huge spotting advantage against this guy. Now, let's also talk about this engagement. I'm not going to shoot at him here. It does me no good. If you're playing a gearing or any American destroyer, and you have the opportunity to get into a gunfight with a Russian, and it's like more than 7 kilometers, man, you are wasting your time. That guy will outgun you and outdamage you like 19 ways to Sunday. His shell arcs are flatter. His reload times are longer, but more his shells are going to go where he puts them. And your shells, you're going to have a hard time leading him with his speed and everything. There's no reason I should accept this gunfight right now. None. So I use my spotting advantage. I back off. I give him the room that he wants. He's going to turn down the 7 line. And I'm going to try and predict where I think he may end up going, which is I'm sure he's going to try and get into the B cap. Like, he basically, that's the play he has to make. The Nebraska-Missouri drama down on the 2 line is finally going to resolve itself. Finally. So I'm sitting here waiting. I'm trying to do some mental calculations. All right, the Tashkent was on the 7 line. If he turns to starboard, he comes straight to the B cap. How much lead do I have to put in the torpedoes? So honestly, that's a guess. I have no idea. I'm not sitting here with a slide rule going, oh, yeah, fire. No, I'm guessing. But I'm trying to lead those on the assumption that the Tashkent is going to come into the B cap, which basically he has to. It's a play that he has to make. And so now it's 2v2 in terms of destroyers. We got to figure out how we're going to win this game. The black is, in my mind, a bit out of position, but in reality, he's not. His radar is able to impact part of the cap, and he is going to come back up the 7 line there and give me a hand. Now, as it turns out, my brilliantly calculated torpedo lead was not good enough. There's the Tashkent. I've got AP in the barrel for that guy. That's intentional. I want a couple of salvos of AP while he's broadside. He turns, he goes bow into me. So now I've got to get to the HE to finish him off. Now you'll notice he came into that engagement with about 5,000 HP or so. I came in with maybe about 13,000, and he still cut me in half. So you can see, I hope, why I am not interested in taking that gunfight in a situation that I do not control and have all the advantages in. Now, the fact that they're still capping B tells me precisely where the opposing gearing is, but we have such a massive lead at this point, he cannot possibly hope to win the game. The black radar catches him out. I'm going to try for a couple of quick shots, see if I can get the reset. Unfortunately, it's going to come just a split second too late. I do clip him with a shell, but it happens right as he manages to bag the cap. Now, what I'm trying to get the black to do is, look, let him have B. Go pick up C. Like, go pick up C and get some more XP, and we'll win this game. Like, they can't win at this stage. But the black seems to be all about the bloodlust. Kill, 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 kill. He's turning back into B, so all right, fine, let's go back to B, I guess. If I were in that black shoes, I would be going to C. There's absolutely no value, no reason to risk your ship at this stage, because he's probably a 2-salvo kill for that gearing. If that gearing gets the spotting advantage on that guy, he's hosed. And why risk it? Like, why take that risk when you're this close to winning the game? But it's not my ship. That's what he's doing. We're going to tag team B here as time ticks away. I'm already sitting on 5 kills. My thought process is, yep, the gearing there. You can see there the fact that I have a spotting advantage on that guy. He is not a unique upgrade gearing, not a legendary. So I've got about a 200 or 300 meter spotting advantage. He's doing exactly what I'd be doing, going to A, trying to squeeze every last scrap of XP out of this game, this result as he can. We're going to pick up B here. It'll be a split cap. He decides, screw it. Let's just get stuck in. So he turns back. We're going to detect each other on the surface and get into a little gunfight here. We have about the same health coming in. I have maybe 1,000 health advantage, maybe 1,200 or so. But I've got a little bit of help. He goes bow in, trying to get narrow. But I get more shells on him or whatever, and win that gunfight. Kill number 6, and there we go. Nice, tidy result out of this game, right? 1.6 million credits. Yes, I'm using the blue credit modifiers. 8,000 base XP, which I don't really need. It's a tier 10 ship. We're already there, right? 150,000 damage, 6 kills, bunch of torpedo hits. Got to flex a lot of different things about my gearing in this match, right? We saw the gun performance, we saw the torpedo performance, the torpedo reload, the power of the American depth charges. The only thing I wasn't able to really showcase was the AA. And Gearing's AA is satisfactory, but it's not amazing. It's perfectly sufficient for, like, self-defense and that sort of thing. Nice achievement list: Confederate, Dev Strike, Kraken, and a First Blood, because, of course, we picked up the mines all the way back at the ACAP, way back at the beginning of the game. 2.2300 base XP here. Nice, solid result. Very, very happy with this game. And I think it definitely showcases that jack of all trades, right? I gotta say, Gearing has gotten to where she surprised me. And I mentioned this earlier in the video, right? There's just, I think my current belief is that the hull changes that they made to the model, right? Either the ship handles better, or I've never noticed it before. I'm not sure exactly, but something about this ship has just clicked with me lately, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I think I've developed a new respect for it. Just last week I was saying, Fletcher's probably the best ship in the American destroyer line. I maybe not be able to say that anymore. I maybe can't say that anymore because I've had so many good Gearing games lately that I think maybe I have to reevaluate this ship. So we'll be doing some more of that in the coming days. But hopefully that gives you an idea of some actual gameplay to go with all the theory craft we talked through earlier. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is our how to play or learn to play USS Gearing American Tier 10 destroyer. I have a new respect for this ship, guys, that I didn't have just a few weeks ago when I started working on this video. And I think she is unquestionably one of the best destroyer picks you can make in the game right now. I think I have to caveat that by saying with the unique upgrade. If you do not have the unique upgrade, you will absolutely run into situations where this ship will struggle, and you will have to play her a little differently. Once you have the unique upgrade in slot 5, she has more of an advantage. She plays better. She just plays better. I can't think of any other way to put it. She has the detection advantage that she can immediately at least do her best, but have more of an opportunity to avoid the gunfight she doesn't want to take. She's just that much harder to spot. You've got the amazing long-range torpedoes on like a 90-second reload. Like, there's just so much to like about this ship. And I love the American destroyer line. I'm so, so glad that Gearing finally feels like a worthy successor to Fletcher. I hope you guys agree with me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Show me some of your own Gearing experiences. In the meantime, guys, thanks for watching. Wash your hands, be safe, and I'll catch you next time.